Reality of crime versus fear of crime. So crime is an action or omission that constitutes an offense that may be prosecuted by the state and is punishable by law. So it's the action of actually breaking a law and being punished for it. Now, fear of crime. Fear can be defined as an emotional reaction characterized by a sense of danger and anxiety. We can define fear of crime as fear that must be elicted by perceived cues in the environment that could cause some aspect of crime for the person. So it's the idea of crime happening to yourself, whether the idea came from media or witnessing a crime firsthand, and being fearful of it. Moving on to reality of crime. There's multiple theories as to how crime started. Richard Quinney wrote a novel called Social Reality of Crime that discusses various aspects of crime and how it started. It essentially stated that if the law did not lay down the rules regarding crime, there would technically be no crime. Over the years, there's been a noticeable increase in crime rates in certain areas. In a video called The Perception versus Reality of Violent Crime in America from NBC News, they speak about the increase in murders within the last year or so. They continue to explain that 67% of the increase came from 10 main cities. Those top 10 cities being Baltimore, Chicago, Houston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Washington, D.C., Nashville, Philadelphia, Kansas City, and St. Louis. Chicago being the murder capital of 2013, with 4,368 being shot in 2016. Chicago was nicknamed Chiraq because there were more murders in the city since 2002 than there were in the Iraq and Afghanistan war. Chicago violence usually occurs in areas like the South and East Side, and rarely ever do they occur on the North Side. So that tells us crime and poverty are linked. Poverty and broken homes tend to correlate with violence in Chicago, leading to such high statistics of gang affiliation and crime. Over the years, there actually has been an overall decrease in crime. But there's a reality perception gap. While crime is actually decreasing, fear of crime has increased by 50%. Why? Until recently, fear of crime and crime have been thought to be closely related. But we have found out that that is not the case. They do not affect one another. Why? Because we're reporting from different sides. It's always been reported if actual crimes being committed from the offender's side, instead of reporting from the victim's side of the fear of crime still occurring. The Casey Anthony case really helped put into perspective both reality of crime and fear of crime. Even though they showed the criminal justice process and what police, lawyers, and judges have to go through, the world was still given a case of a missing 2-year-old. Civilians were allowed to form opinions on court cases without knowing the facts. The media doesn't have to broadcast all of the facts, so they many times broadcast situations that they do not have the full information on, which leads to people forming opinions without all of the facts. Under the First Amendment, broadcasters have the right to lie deliberately distort news reports on the public airways. The media is very biased when it comes to reporting crimes. Not one source will have the full story. They want people to gossip. The media plays a huge role in the fear of crime for this reason. By wrongly portraying a crime to the public, they then form their own opinions and fears about what could happen to them. Furstenberg made an observation that has come to be known as the understatement of the decade for people researching the fear of crime. The relationship between crime and its consequences is neither obvious nor simple, meaning that there will be no textbook answer to what causes the fear of crime. Each person forms their own ideas about it. Many different factors like the extent of crime, the nature of crime, and the characteristics of offenders and victims all play a role in the fear of crime. As you can see, there are many different factors that have a role in the crime and the fear of crime. The media playing a huge role. Crime itself is pretty black and white, but it turns out there really isn't a right or wrong answer as to what is and what causes the fear of crime. It all changes from person to person.